Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
Hey, Larson.
Yeah, welcome back to Going In Raw Countouts Top 10 show. Today, we're going to take a look at, don't rev your engine just yet, Larson.
Oh.
You need a sputtering engine for these wrestlers because they all had lemon years. So this was, of course, last week we did, 2 weeks ago, rather, we did wrestlers who had the best 2022, and what a fantastic year it was for them. These wrestlers on this list, not so much. Today on Going In Raw, we're going to take a look at the wrestlers, 10 wrestlers, plus a bunch of honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Who had the worst 2022. Maybe, hey, you know what? Maybe ain't nowhere to go but up for these wrestlers.
Exactly.
Maybe they'll land on the other list
next year, 2023.
next year. Do you recall, did we do like a similar list for last year?
If you give me a moment, I could check.
I know we've done this kind of list before, but I don't know if we
Yes.
did one last year for this. I think we might have skipped last year.
I think we did skip
And we
last
did it
year
maybe
for
the
this.
year before. I don't know. Anyways, while you do that research, we're going to go ahead and remind you all, if you're watching us on YouTube, do us a huge favor and hit that like button, little thumbs up thing. Hit that subscribe button and the notify bell. If you're listening to this in the audio realm, do us a favor, give us a rating, review, or a comment. And if you want to help support Going In Raw, go check out patreon.com/Steven Larson. Have a variety of reward tiers, including $5 a month, get your bonus episode every single week, where it's usually a pretty beefy thing. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff on Overrun. So, yeah. Patreon.
It's morphed into some huge kind of omnibus, if you will, show where it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that,
Yeah.
a little bit of everything.
With more stuff coming in the new year, I got a really good idea for Overrun, but I'm not going to spoil it here. I got to talk to you about it when we're off air.
So before we get started, I can confirm the last time we did the best and worst list was actually 2019.
May I ask, before we get started with our list, who made the 2019 list for worst?
Well, let's go. I was looking on you. Give me a second, please. Hold. So it was when you were vacationing in Scotland.
Wow, yeah.
That we did it. So worst. So there's some
I was
familiar
in Scotland
names
in July. What were we doing that in July?
because we had to do a week of programming of the
Stuff.
because we had to.
Yeah.
There's some crossover here.
Oh, wow. So people just real bad run. All right, well, let's dive into it, man. Let's start off with number 10.
10.
Miro. Man. So, we know he was dealing with an injury towards the end of last year.
Yeah, it was a hamstring injury.
Yeah, but once he was healthy, we only saw Miro in 4 matches in 2022 so far. There's only a small handful of days left in the
2
month.
weeks.
In the year, yeah.
Seen him since All Out. No, I know he was. They were launching a story with him versus Malachi because he got misted, and then. I wonder if part of this, I'm sure part of the reason we haven't seen him since All Out is because Malachi, we'll get to Malachi here in a bit later, took a leave from AEW, and seemingly kind of a side effect of that was Miro, his creative getting derailed, and for whatever reason, Tony Khan couldn't think of anything else for him, which boggles my mind. Yes, Steve.
So, in the wrestling world, Larson, there's a phrase. Plans change. I think that's just what Dave Meltzer says whenever he gets something wrong. Yeah. But for example, CM Punk, he disappeared because of stuff. And the people that were supposed to be involved with him, they still got programs on TV and did stuff. The Elite, Kenny Omega, they disappeared for similar reasons CM Punk. The people they were supposed to feud with, they still did things and got programs on TV. Why not, Miro?
I don't know, because as we saw in 2021 when he started the Redeemer character, he's one of the best promos in the entirety of professional wrestling. He was doing some of the absolute best character work. He could put on really good matches. And the crowd was getting behind him. Seriously. Why? How do you not find a way to get this guy on TV on a regular basis?
Let me pivot to somebody with some similarities to Miro in the respect that at one point Miro was a fairly dominant character.
Yeah.
Wardlow, fairly dominant guy. I don't understand. Although I understand on one hand, you want to build, your youth, you want to build your younger guys. I get that. But Miro is an infinitely more interesting guy. He already had one terrific run with the TNT title. You and I thought that he was a shoo-in to get the All-Atlantic title.
Yeah.
That didn't end up happening. Could you imagine it? He got that All-Atlantic title and he just goes on a dominant run. I'll go one further in fantasy book a little bit. Given that he's like, this religious guy and factions are a thing, isn't it perfectly normal for like a big religious nut to have his own flock? Like, why not build a faction around Miro? Like, dude, there's like endless numbers of stories you can tell with everything he does in his promos. It's insane that they haven't found anything for him.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Like I understand he was dealing with injury and some stuff outside of the ring for the first part of the year, but still, there's really no reason why he should not have been a featured player, at least after Forbidden Door.
Right. Yeah. That's where they had the Fatal 4-Way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Pac wins the title. He has a problem with Malachi, but Malachi disappears. That's fine. So he can still have a problem with Pac. He can still have a problem with any number of people. Yeah, this is nuts to me because everything you said about him is true. He's one of the best characters that AEW concocted. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's another thing they probably could have and should have done. So when they had the House of Black versus Sting, Darby, and Miro match at All Out, who got the pin? It was Darby.
Right, yeah.
Why didn't Miro go up to Darby right away and be like, how can I do what I'm supposed to do if I'm not the one getting the win on Malachi? Now I have beef with you, Darby Allin. You could have started that feud.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yeah, dude, it's absolutely crazy. Like, they took these really awesome promos that they never really even expanded the way they should have. And it just, honestly, it just seems like, the way Tony Khan books, certain people go out of sight, out of mind. And if he doesn't have something for them, they just sort of disappear, as opposed to maybe sitting down with them and saying, "Hey, what would you?" Which is weird because it seems like he has other people doing kind of scheduling out their own stuff. I don't know what's going on there, but you let a guy like Miro slip. He honestly, he was the one guy who really, him and Brody Lee, two WWE former WWE names who really transformed themselves completely from what they were in WWE. Well, it's a shame. It's an absolute bummer.
And Miro as Rusev was on the list in 2019.
It's bizarre that nobody knows what to do with him. And it's a shame because, I don't know, I could come up with fucking a million ideas off the top of my head for Miro.
I know he's an immensely talented individual.
For Rusev, maybe not, but Miro definitely.
Yeah. The Redeemer character is outstanding.
Oh my God, it's so good.
It's really good.
Anyways, let's move on here. Number 9. Adam Cole, baby. Baby.
The first half of his year was all right. He had a couple title shots against Hangman Page for the AEW World Championship. He didn't win any of them, but there's a couple good bouts there. And then he was part of the Fatal 4-Way bout. I mean, they took the story of him losing twice to Page and took that into the IWGP Heavyweight Championship bout at Forbidden Door. Unfortunately, though, he suffered a concussion during that match and has been out of action ever since.
Yeah. And then on top of that, we had this dream scenario where you had, the original Undisputed Era all in the ring at the same time, and it looked like they were heading towards, a big program with Kenny and the Bucks. They turn on the Bucks, and unfortunately, due to the length of time that Kenny was out, and that sort of coinciding with not just Brawl Out, but also Adam Cole's concussion issues, which we still don't have a time frame in terms of when he's supposed to be coming back, which, for the human being, Adam Cole, even though does amazing. There's a guy that looks exactly like him on Twitch called Chugs.
Yes.
Doing just great work over there.
Yes.
He seems to be I think Chugs is having a terrific 2022, but the wrestler Adam Cole, in terms of doing wrestling stuff, he came off like just an absolutely stunning, amazing 2019, and then didn't make it to main roster because of who knows why. Either Vince want to make him a manager, or they want to take away his Twitch, or some combination thereof. He had a lot of friends and his girlfriend over there, of course, in AEW. Maybe he wanted to join them. But he was a featured player in AEW, and this year just sucked. It just absolutely sucked for him.
Yeah, and then now Kyle O'Reilly's hurt too. Bobby Fish, he's boxing now, showing up at Impact.
Yeah,
silent crowds. He's not in AEW anymore because his contract wasn't. Where's the Lie wasn't picked up. So, any notion we had of Redragon and Adam Cole taking on Kenny and the Young Bucks seemingly gone.
Yeah. I mean, the only saving grace might be, who knows, maybe in 2023, Roderick Strong will get out of his contract and head over to AEW. Maybe they'll have a reset on, the other 3/4 of the Undisputed Era. Arguably, the more popular version of Undisputed Era was when it was just those three guys.
Yeah.
With Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole. And maybe we'll get a reboot with Kenny being all jacked and everything. Maybe they can revisit that in 2023. Is that something people would like to see? I would like to see, just to see, what they could do with that. The Adam Cole, Kenny Omega stuff, I think could be a lot of fun, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, when they remember back in New Japan where they were kind of starting that story where Adam Cole's, he ended up leaving. And so Cody took the spot.
Yeah.
Where Adam Cole was he was just annoying the hell out of Kenny. The whole match where he's just Adam Cole, baby, in that tag match.
God, that was funny.
That was amazing. Amazing.
Awesome.
So we haven't seen that story through. It'd be pretty cool if we could actually see that story.
I think a lot of people would be interested in that, man. Hopefully we'll get it in 2023. But hey, look, regardless, Adam Cole, what a sweetheart. Every time we rate him on the Twitch, nicest guy.
Yeah.
That time I went to the Performance Center without you, he was, became my best friend pretty instantly. Still wish that we would have brought you along. That was a bad move on our part.
Well, hindsight 2020, wins and learns, Steve.
I always bring that up. I don't know why I do that.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, let's move on. Number 8.
8.
Malachi Black.
So Malachi dealt with, let's say, uneven creative through most of 2022. And then shortly before All Out, I believe, he reportedly asked for his release from AEW. And after
something that he denies, but...
Well, we'll get to that in a second. So even at All Out, after the loss to Darby, Sting, and Miro, he said goodbye to the crowd, at the very least, taking the leave. And so a couple weeks after he All Out, he posted a message on Instagram confirming. And this message, he says, literally, I did indeed ask for my release.
Oh, wait, when was that?
This was a couple weeks after All Out. This is September, mid-September.
Okay.
So this is what he had to say on this Instagram post. Quote, this isn't the full thing. It's part of it. It says, I did indeed ask for my release. The last 2 years of my life have led to a lot of setbacks. Both me and my wife have been affected by uncontrollable actions from the outside that result in loss of life, medical setbacks, career jeopardizing, the suicide of a close friend, a close family member almost losing their life, and experiencing an injury that I was sure was the end of my career. I spent every week going through several sessions of rehab, dry needling, and therapy just to be able to walk and compete. Now this being the tip of the iceberg with a combination of the promises in my professional field that were not upheld, which resulted as a combination of all of these to a complete demoralization of life and career. This decision has been in mind for the past 6 weeks. So it was in this post that he was announcing that he was taking the leave.
Yeah, okay, I remember that. Yeah.
So I think he had a video update.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah.
So, of course, he and the House of Black just returned to AEW recently. Hopefully, from a creative standpoint, they get them going on the right track. I mean, so far, it's a small sample size, but they're just showing up and destroying everybody. That seems like a good start.
It does. They filmed some really, really killer video vignettes. Interestingly, he had plenty of matches during the year 2022. Guess how many singles matches he had?
4.
2. In AEW.
Really?
Yeah. One against Brian Pillman Jr., and then won the qualifying match for the All-Atlantic title against, who was that? No. Yeah, Penta. Yeah, Penta. Yeah, Pentagon. But otherwise, he had a 6-minute long match against Brian Pillman Jr. On January 5th. But and that was coming off the heels of beating the other Pillman, Griff Garrison, a couple weeks earlier on Dynamite. But yeah, he's everything else. I mean, he had a lot of tag matches and a lot of 6-mans. He was. I mean, look, if they're gonna focus on him as a singles guy, as an act, as a House of Black trio, then I guess go after the trios titles. I guess just do that. I don't know who's going to come. I assume the Elite's going to come out on the end of this.
I would imagine, yeah.
The best of 7. But if they don't and they decide to do other stuff with them and they keep those titles on Death Triangle, you can just revisit this feud.
Yeah, that, based on, I'm sure, travel issues and injury just kind of happened and then ended.
Yeah.
You know, there is the span of time when, you know, based on, because I know Pac had some travel issues related to you know, COVID stuff. And then Phoenix was hurt for a stretch.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, the House of Black was feuding with Fuego del Sol for months.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe at a certain point, yeah, if Death Triangle holds on to those trios titles at the end of this best of 7 series, and yeah, revisit it.
So they
have
traded,
House of Black beat them, and then have them go on a huge run.
So it looks like, okay, so House of Black actually got the best in the end against sort of a Death Triangle. So they traded off victories 1-1, but then at Revolution 2022, House of Black beat Death Triangle, but it was Pac Penta and
Redbeard, wasn't it?
It was Redbeard, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe there's some stuff there they can still mine. But whatever they do, we want to see more of them, and we want to see them taken seriously, and we want to see them with gold in 2023.
Yes, because when booked correctly, especially, spectacular stuff there with the House of Black.
Absolutely. All right, man. Let's move on to number 7.
7.
RK Bro. So things were looking up for Matt Riddle and Randy Orton heading into 2022. Riddle was one half of the most popular tag teams in WWE with Randy Orton. Man, RK Bro were super over. They were either champs or usually contenders for tag titles. And there were reports that Riddle was at one point supposed to win the Rumble. Mm-hmm. But all that came to an end after RK Bro lost a tag title unification bout in May of this year. Orton was then sidelined with a back injury, which required surgery. We're still not sure if he's even going to come back. Shortly after that, Riddle was put into a program with Seth Rollins heading into SummerSlam. That bout was eventually pushed, and recently we found out the reason why. Riddle had reportedly failed a drug test. He failed another one more recently, was pulled from the road, and according to Bodyslam.net, has entered rehab. It's impossible to overstate how much RK Bro was over last year, Larson, and it looked like there was going to be a lot of money to be made for Riddle and Orton for whenever that team was going to split up. Oh, that was weird. Hold on, sorry. Zoom just automatically, it just switched our cameras there.
What?
Yeah, that was weird. Zoom's trying to fuck on us. Anyways, so of course, Orton reported by Fightful was reported that Orton underwent fusion on his lower back. Fusion surgery on his lower back is going to keep him out of action for a lot of time, and some have even speculated that could be it for him. He's been doing it for over 20 years now.
Yep.
You know, nobody'd blame him if he called it a day.
Yeah. And depending on the severity of the injury and how many vertebrae that had to be fused, I mean, I guess it's possible that it's going to take him quite a while to come back to action if he comes back at all. There's been several reports about concern within WWE about his wrestling future. In light of this injury. So, I mean, Orton was doing some of the best work of his entire career.
That is true.
As part of RK Bro. So it's a bummer that their run as a tag team kind of had to end how it did given the injury. And, you know, it's unfortunate that Riddle, seemingly after that, or maybe before, I don't know, failed a couple drug tests, and you can only hope that, you know, he's going to rehab, coming out the other end of that healthy, happy, and in a better place.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of interesting, dude, that when Triple H took over, Riddle, who I think seemed to be somebody that Triple H really appreciated back in NXT,
seemed like it.
Really, there was nothing for him.
If anything, from a character standpoint, he took a couple steps back from where he was as member of RK Bro.
Yeah, he regressed. Once RK Bro broke up, he, first off, under Vince, was just obsessed with Randy Orton. He'd always talk about, my friend Randy, I'm doing this for you, Randy, to an almost uncomfortable degree. And then when Triple H took over, that aspect fell off, but you did see a bit more of the rambling Riddle, the rambling stoner from before RK Bro. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And it seemed like there was a story, and I can understand this, that he was kind of cast adrift on Raw without a friend.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like, okay, he was trying to find a new friend to kind of fill Randy's shoes, and it seemed like maybe at least he thought he had found that friend in Elias, even though you could kind of tell that Elias was just waiting to hit him with that guitar.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, you know, I imagine that's where the story would have gone, is Elias would have turned on Riddle. They would have feuded. But to think that, you know, a year ago, Riddle was a serious contender for the Rumble.
Yeah, right.
And having a title match at Mania, you know, and to now, you know, his kind of short-term future kind of unknown. Yeah, it's not been the best year.
He did, although, get his first name back.
He did.
So that's kind of nice.
That's good. That's good, I guess.
Anyways, Larson, let's take a quick break here while we pay some bills. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's take a quick break here, friendos. This episode of Going in Raw is brought to you by BetterHelp. You know, Steve, you know, Christmas just happened, and basically every gift I got for my kids came with like a user manual.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You know, and it got me thinking about how there have been times where I wish there was a user manual for life. And I know I've talked about it here on the show, but in my 20s, I was feeling pretty overwhelmed by life's challenges. Started dealing with severe anxiety, and it got to the point where I made the decision that I needed to go to therapy.
Well, yeah, because therapists are trained to assist you in processing challenging emotions and help you learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing we have to what you're talking about, a user manual of the complex machine called you, Larson.
Me?
People in general.
Oh, everybody. Yeah, that's right. And while it took me quite a while to find a therapist I felt comfortable talking to, once I did, I was able to learn the tools I needed to better cope with my anxiety. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable.
Yeah, you just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist, and if things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler.
No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/raw. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/raw.
All right, let's move on with number 6. Andrade, El Idolo.
So Andrade was another AEW talent that was dealing with, shall we say, subpar creative throughout most of 2022. Although he's put on some awesome matches. There were some great matches.
He always puts on awesome matches.
Yeah. And then in October, Andrade, Sammy, got into a bit of beef after Sammy Guevara. After Andrade sent an interview with Mas Lucha. I did have one issue with the wrestler. I'm going to say his name. It was Sammy Guevara.
That still kills me.
Because the question was asked of him was, brawl out.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And he segues talking about Sammy Guevara. He continues, had an issue with him because he once came into the locker room and complained that we hit him too hard. It's wrestling. Solve it in the ring. If I hit hard, hit me hard too. I learned that he came in, that he accused me like a little girl. After I learned about it, I spoke to him and asked if he had an issue with me, but he said he did not, and that's all there is to it. It's funny because not even WB, for example, Sheamus likes to hit. And all my respect for him because he loves to hit hard and loves the strikes. He is wild. Even The Miz likes to throw strikes. Not even John Cena complained about me, so if he did not complain, imagine this kid who was just starting, but there's that. So their beef went to social media next with Andrade tweeting, I said it to your face. If you had a problem with me and you said nothing, I won't beat your ass because I'm professional. Don't be scared. When I say something, I name names. I'm not scared to get fired. And then Sammy Guevara responded, you didn't say shit to me, you liar, but here's some truth, you ungrateful prick. You would be jobless if it wasn't for your dad-in-law. Are you really mad at me or mad at yourself for failing to get over for a second time? Just go back to WB like we all know you want to do and fuck off. Of course, there's also, I think, some rumors this year that Andrade tried to get released. So Andrade followed with, okay, I'm a liar. See you on Wednesday. I'll tell you to your face again, and nothing you say that you do not have any problem. And Jose, the assistant, chimed in saying, I was there and can't confirm this incident happened. Well, fast forward to the following Dynamite. What happens?
Yeah, shit happens.
Fight.
Yeah, there's a fight backstage. Yeah, apparently Sammy Guevara did everything he could. Number one, it's funny because we get like the narrative that comes out of that fight at first, and it wasn't like Sammy went in with like a sucker punch or something like that. I forget what it was, but it was very Andrade friendly, and then you get sort of like the real story or more corroboration from a bunch of other people saying, no, it was Andrade was looking for a fight. Sammy did literally everything he could not to fight him until he had to defend himself. And so, yeah, it made Andrade look pretty bad. Sammy Guevara showed up on that episode of Dynamite. Andrade did not, was sent home, and we have not seen him since.
Yeah, he's apparently recuperating from a torn pectoral muscle.
True. Yeah.
after having surgery on it. So not a great year for Andrade. Although he got married. He and Charlotte got married this year, so congratulations to them.
I mean, he had some highlights. He got to team with Ric Flair in what he was being called his last match, even though we all know that's not the case.
Yeah.
They beat Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. He actually did win a lot. I'm looking at his cage match right here, and like between solo matches, I mean, he wasn't perfect, but between his solo matches and his multi-man matches, he actually had a lot of wins this year.
Yeah.
I feel like his unlike a guy like Miro, who's nowhere to be found, Andrade's always on TV. Now, is he always doing kind of the same thing, recruiting Preston Vance? Yeah, maybe. It felt like that was going on. Yeah. It felt like that was going on for a while.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like his creative wasn't. I'll put it this way: his creative was there. It wasn't dog shit, but it just wasn't as good as we think it could be.
Yeah.
And like you said, he always has phenomenal matches. It's just, I don't know if he wanted out of AEW and he tried to orchestrate that, or what the deal was. But regardless, he didn't, not necessarily mission accomplished for Andrade if the idea was he wanted to take the next level up.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
let's move on, Steve.
Let's move on to number 5. Coda Ibushi.
So Coda's been out of action since suffering a shoulder injury in the 2021 G1 finals against Okada. And it seemed like he might have recuperated at least enough earlier this year to return to action, because he was initially announced to be part of the field for this year's New Japan Cup.
Yeah.
And then almost as quickly as he was announced for the tournament, he was withdrawn from said tournament. And not long after, he posted some screenshots of text messages of a conversation between himself and a New Japan talent executive. And that talent executive threatened to fire Coda for making an unapproved appearance at Taka Michinoku's promotion. It's called Just Tap Out.
Yeah.
And then Ibushi responded, just blasting this executive and threatening to expose, quote, the sexually harassing bosses from the company's president's lies to the unreasonable power harassment. So eventually New Japan got involved, and then in the press conference about it, said they were going to dole out some punishments for both Ibushi they said he was in violation of his contract for showing up at that show, and this talent executive for the way he talked to Kota Ibushi. And then in July, Ibushi mentioned during a fan Q&A that his shoulder injury was, quote, getting worse.
Eesh.
And that, quote, if I wrestled now, my shoulder would dislocate in less than a minute.
Wow.
So more recently, in early December, Meltzer reported that Ibushi's shoulder was holding up well to, quote, light training. And even more recently, Ibushi mentioned in an interview with Dark Pororesu Flosion that he's got a pretty significant size deal on AEW from AEW on the table, and that he wants to start his own promotion once his New Japan contract expires early next year.
He's one of the more interesting characters in pro wrestling, one of the more interesting personalities, whether it's on screen or off screen.
Yep.
I'm not sure there's much of a difference, to be honest with you. He seems like one of those dudes who he is who he is. It also was, exposing an uglier side to Bushi Road and their practices. And there's also like the matter of like the language barrier, because like, you read the translated tweets and it was all very confusing. And even people who do speak the language, were hesitant to try to nail down what he said too much, from what I saw, because there's a lot of context that might be missing from a straight up translation.
Yes.
So a lot of question marks in terms of what's going on there. But it does go to show that as much as we'd like to think that Kota Ibushi is somewhat maybe from a different planet, because of the way he wrestles and how much he's put his body through, he's human. Yeah. And it seems, he's not young. He's like 37 or something.
He's in his late 30s. Yeah.
Yeah. And even though he still looks remarkable for his age, he literally does not look like he's aged. Obviously he's dealing with issues that preclude him from getting back in the ring.
Yeah.
the frustration of the New Japan, front office situation, I think would probably compound or add some complexities to his return to the ring. Yeah. I'd be kind of surprised if we saw him in a New Japan ring anytime soon, just given all the stuff that's happened.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, he's one of the most electrifying performers in professional wrestling.
He is.
And he's put his body through a lot. Mm-hmm. A lot. You see the gifs of all the kind of goofy stuff he did in DDT Pro. Watch the highlights from his match against Kenny Omega in that same promotion, and they are beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
Beating the hell out of each other. And that's just a small fraction of what he has put his body through. And it's unfortunate that, he's had injuries in the past, obviously, but, the shoulder injury, which at the time you could tell they had to stop the match against Okada. Mm-hmm. But, you think separated shoulder, a few months he'll be back. Yeah. Wasn't the case here. Yeah. And hopefully, if his body is responding well and he's eager to get back into the world of professional wrestling, I think the world of pro wrestling would be all the better having him back.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. He's a fantastic. I mean, he's so interesting. Mm-hmm. Fact that he says he exists by a 25-hour a day schedule. Because
he goes sleeps. To bed 1 hour later each day.
Yeah, he milks the most at a time. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Be interesting to see what 2023 holds for him, or if he just continues to heal up and lays low once he's out of his New Japan contract. If they haven't frozen it or whatever, it'll be interesting to see what he does. But yeah, no, not the best year if you're a Kota Ibushi fan to see what's going on with that, because it seemed like since New Japan had signed him, they were intent on having him be a top guy, if not the top guy.
Yeah, and we saw that when they had him win both titles, unified them. Yeah, right. A single belt. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of confusing why he pretty quickly lost it to Will Ospreay. Yeah. After that, but
yeah, interesting stuff. Let's move on. Number 4. So Robert Roode. Sorry,
this is a bummer.
Yeah, Roode. Yeah, this is a real bummer. So this is one of the biggest misses in terms of NXT call-ups, I think, in the history of the WWE.
Yeah, I think so. You think about the work he was doing in NXT, the tactical, strategic heel. Yeah. I know his manifesto, if you will, about having the whole front rows surrounded by CEOs and such never came to fruition. But nonetheless, he was doing incredible work in NXT, and he came up to main roster, and his gimmick was his theme song.
Yes.
He was generic, smiling babyface. Mm-hmm. So, that was a few years back. Let's fast forward to this year. So he spent most of the first half of the year jobbing out.
Yeah, correct.
Either as one half of the Dirty Dogs with Dolph, or as a singles wrestler, losing at live events to Veer Mahan a lot, if cage matches be believed. Yeah. And also Amos. Yeah. And then since about late June, he has been completely out of action. And fairly recently, earlier this month in December, he announced on Instagram that he had surgery on his neck to fuse his C5 and C6. So that's, if memory is correct, that was the vertebrae at the base of your spine. Yeah. Or at the base of your neck, sorry.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, at his age, I'm not sure. Look, he's in phenomenal shape.
Yeah, he's 40, mid-40s, I want to say.
I think he's past 45, I think.
Yeah, he might be.
I think he's I'm looking at his cage match right now, and I'm trying to find the last time he won a singles match, and I know we've talked about this before.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't like 2019 or something like that.
I believe it was 2019. Match. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, he's been doing, here it is, February 2020.
Oh, 2020.
He beat Kofi Kingston on SmackDown.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty gnarly. Wow. But yeah, no, like you said, Veer Mahan beat him a lot on the house show circuit. His last match was in late June. And then he was gone. And then, recently, he had fusion surgery. I don't know if that's the kind of thing. I mean, didn't Edge have fusion surgery? Mm-hmm. So, he seemed to be, just given his placement in NXT, a favorite of Triple H, or at least somebody that Triple H saw value in. Mm-hmm. I think a long time away. A bit of a clean slate could mean that he's going to have a good 2023 should he choose to come back to wrestling, if he's able to, if his body can handle it. Yeah.
I mean, he'll be out a significant amount of time rehabilitating that injury and recuperating from that surgery. Mm-hmm. If he comes back later in 2023 and if Triple H still sees the value that he saw in him in NXT. And if they can come up with creative for him, that'll kind of get him out of the hole he was in the fans' eyes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Not everybody watched Bob Roode in NXT.
True. Yeah.
It saw what he is really capable of. So people might just assume, oh, Robert Roode's here. Time for him to take this L.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be. I do think, though, that, bring back that theme song. Make him about more than the theme song, though.
Yeah, have him go back to wearing suits.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, it was a big deal when he came to NXT because, man, finally Bobby Roode, such a major player in Impact TNA, and then to see him have a good run in NXT, like straight to the top, and then he gets to main roster, and Vince just saw him as the theme song.
Yep.
So yeah, hopefully, health comes first. He's able to figure that out. And if he comes back to wrestling, I have no doubt that Triple H can have something good for him. And I think that he's talented enough to scrub the fans' memories of all those losses. So many losses.
Yeah, he's got the talent to do that for sure. Bob Roode, another name that appeared on the 2019 list.
Oof. When was his call up? 2018?
Probably.
Oh, wow.
What year did we go to WrestleMania?
2017.
So it was a year after that. It was a year after that. I think.
And it was like the Raw after SmackDown after Mania, I think, is when
Yeah.
My goodness gracious. All right, let's move on to number 3.
3.
CM Punk.
So even before we even get to Brawl Out, for the most part, it was a good year for Phil. He had a really good feud with MJF. Probably feud of the year.
Yeah.
Unless I'm forgetting something. He beat Hangman Page for the AEW World title at Double or Nothing. And then after that, things kind of started going downhill. Like right after, his first match after, broke his foot.
Yep.
He was out for a couple months. Came back right before All Out. And his return promo blasted Page for going off script, even though he was going off script in his own promo. But that's whatever. I guess it's up to you to decide whether you should have done that or not. And then, then he had that weird title unification bout with Mox that he lost in like 2 minutes, and then beat him at All Out. And then at All Out, of course, shit hit the fan for reals.
Big time, yeah. We've talked about this probably more than we've talked about any one subject. It's funny because like Vince retired this year, and yet the thing we talked most about was CM Punk.
Do you want to know why?
Why?
It's because in the midst of this investigation that AEW was doing, there was zero transparency.
Yeah, true.
So that every little rumor was like, oh, is this an indication? Who's going to lose their job was essentially the theme of all this. Because, okay, to recap. So after All Out, after CM Punk reclaims the AEW title, he sits next to Tony Khan and proceeds to talk a bunch of shit about Colt Cabana. He brings this up.
Yeah,
he brings this up.
Yeah,
no one asks him a question. He brings this up. He proceeds to more or less bury AEW by saying, Hangman Page, who is he? What has he ever done in this industry? That was the guy that Punk initially won the title from.
He was the biggest story they had from the inception of the company, Hangman Page's story.
Yes. He blasts Kenny and the Young Bucks.
Said they couldn't run a target and that they think that they're in Reseda still.
Yes, he called Page an empty-headed dumb fuck.
Oh, that was nasty.
For going off script. All the while, Tony Khan's just sitting there. And Phil's drinking his Spindrift and eating his muffin.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, this lasts a good 30 minutes or something like that. We're trying to follow along while we're doing our all-out recap. Yeah. And we're shocked at some of the stuff that he is saying here. So eventually he leaves, goes to his locker room. And during his media scrum, he says, if you have something to say to me, you know where to find me.
Yeah, he says that.
And so, reportedly, the Elite, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, have something to say to him, so they go and find him.
Yeah, they did that.
And go to his locker room, and that leads to a fight.
Yeah.
That saw, Nick Jackson
bite Kenny Omega.
Yeah, Nick Jackson takes a chair to the face.
Yeah.
Suspensions for everybody involved. Just, about a month ago, maybe a little bit more than that, Kenny and the Young Bucks returned at Full Gear, so November, a little bit more than a month. Punk tore his tricep during the match, Mox it All Out. So even if this hadn't happened, he'd be gone.
Yeah.
And so still no official word on his fate in AEW, whether he's still with the company or not.
Again, which speaks to the lack of transparency.
Exactly. We've heard reports of a buyout trying to be negotiated between Phil and AEW. Again, no firm answer either way on that. He's gone back to doing MMA commentary, made some jokes about Brawl Out on there.
Yeah.
So maybe he's moved on. But, you look at the first 5 months of the year for Phil. It's like, wow, this is a heck of a comeback for someone who's been out of the wrestling business for 7 years, man. This is like the culmination of the story they were telling in AEW. And basically, since the day after Double or Nothing, it's all fallen apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. He jumped into the crowd and broke his foot, and everything sucked after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's all been really weird, and it's a shame, regardless of if you think Punk was right or wrong. It's a shame that the last image we have of him in wrestling is one that was just chock full of venom,
negativity.
Negativity.
Yep.
And I don't know, maybe it's classic Punk to go out that way, and maybe that's just the inevitable end of CM Punk. Who knows if he's going to be coming back to wrestling or not? His body seems pretty shot at this point.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe he'll want to stick it to WWE, and he'll have a killer 2023 or whenever he's going to be able to come back. We have no idea what his no compete clause is going to look like or what he's going to do. At this point, it just seems like he's chilling. Like you said, he's doing MMA commentary. Dax Harwood. I'm sorry. Dax Harwood.
It was Dax.
Posted an IG story with a picture of him and CM Punk together hanging out. I think that was a recent one. But yeah, in terms of not going out on your own terms, this was a sad one for CM Punk because, he felt like, I guess, his back was up against the wall, or he had been backed into a corner, whatever. And he felt the need to air these grievances publicly, and found himself out of the spotlight, out of wrestling. And he seemed to be having a terrific time since, 2021 when he returned to the wrestling world with AEW. So I can't believe that he'd be happy with this, but who knows? Maybe he's like, I said what I needed to say. I'm good.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Who knows?
Anyways, so we'll see where he goes from here. Let's go on with number 2. Big E.
This is a bummer. So the year didn't exactly start off great for Big E. So he was originally scheduled in a fatal 4-way bout for his WWE title at day 1. It was himself, it was Rollins, it was Owens, it was Lashley, I believe. And then the main event of the show was supposed to be Roman versus Brock for the Universal title. Roman got COVID, pulled from the show, so they added Brock to what was a 4-way match to make it a 5-way match. And of course, Brock walked out of day 1 as WWE champion, pinning Big E. According to Wrestling Observer, Big E was originally supposed to retain the title at day 1. I think the idea was he and Seth were going to feud at Mania.
That's what I remember hearing.
I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But then the following month, February, Big E was sent to SmackDown to reunite with The New Day. But then on the March 11th edition of SmackDown, Big E broke his neck during a match when Ridge Holland tried to hit an overhead belly-to-belly on the floor. Luckily, Big E wasn't paralyzed from the injury, nor did he require surgery. By basically all accounts, his recuperation from the injury has been going well, but he stated that he's awaiting another evaluation in March. So his wrestling future in doubt. But again, when it comes to someone's health, happy that, he escaped more permanent damage following that injury. And he's an immensely talented individual. And if for whatever reason he can't wrestle again, I'm sure he's going to be a massive success in whatever he chooses to do next.
Yeah, this was, you don't like to see any injury happen to any wrestler, but talk about somebody who is just universally loved by everybody. Everybody seems to be a guy with just an enormous heart, enormous charisma. And yeah, it really freaked me out. I think it freaked a lot of people out.
Yeah, me too.
When we saw this happen, and we're like, oh God, what is happening right now? And so, like you said, it's not, it's tragic, but it could have been much, much worse. And yeah, like you said, man, I echo everything you say. Hopefully, he gets to a place where he is, as healthy as can be and as happy as he can be. And if that means, coming back to wrestling, awesome. Because I mean, even, I know the New Day are currently NXT tag champions, but within the world of wrestling, within the silly world of wrestling, they haven't had a terrific year either. And I think some of it can be attributed to they just feel like it's not the same without Big E. I mean, honestly, ever since they split him up in the first place, it didn't really seem the same. Like Big E should have had those guys with him when he was champion the entire time instead of having to do it on his own. And it just sort of felt like he was solo New Day guy. And even his title run, like, it was a great moment to see Big E achieve that. Mm-hmm. And I'd never take that away from him. But the creative just wasn't there to make him the champion he should have been. Yeah. For the stories of the WWE.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe, in March we'll get more info about his future. Whatever he plans on doing, we'll be there waiting for him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love this number one. Let's go ahead and dive into it. Number one. Shane McMahon.
Wow. So it's interesting that the person that tops this list had one match in WWE this year in 2022 and it was all the way back in January, the Royal Rumble. He entered at number 28.
Yeah.
And according to reports following the show, a couple days after, he was such a headache during the Rumble that Vince fired him. So initially after the Rumble, there's all these reports that Shane was going to be around for a while. He was going to be a heel on Raw. He was going to feud with either Seth or Lashley. But then on February 2nd, Ringside News, a site that we don't use very often.
Wasn't he supposed to have like a Mania match against Seth Rollins?
Yeah. So revealed that, quote, there is a lot going on with Shane McMahon. He is now off Raw, Elimination Chamber, and WrestleMania. A tenured source within the company told us that Vince McMahon is also quietly using the term let go to describe the situation. Shane has been let go. Vince had no choice. Shane created chaos, had everyone in an uproar, pissed off everyone in the Rumble, openly buried other producers, and was changing things that Vince wanted. Vince had no other choice but to send him home. So Sean Ross Sapp, had some more details. It said the following regarding the Shane McMahon report of being quietly let go from WB by Ringside News. I've yet to be able to get it confirmed. This is all back in February when it all happened, but was told by another source it's likely true. Ringside News has been accurate with the reports surrounding him that they've heard thus far, though he wasn't listed as producer internally for the Rumble. He helped put the match together, which he's done before in the past. We're told he was integral in a lot of changes in the match that was already heavily changing as is.
And if you remember, there was a lot of stories leading into the Rumble that they never referenced during the actual Rumble. And we had speculated somebody came in and changed this shit because it seemed obvious that a lot of these stories were supposed to play out during the Rumble, and the Rumble ended up being kind of a turd because they didn't really address many of that stuff.
Yes. Andrew Zarian had some more details, saying, quote, few notes from source regarding Shane and the Rumble. There were numerous changes to what number Bad Bunny would be. This is a cause for concern, and people within WB were upset. WB doesn't want to come off negatively with such a major outside star. And then Meltzer tweeted, quote, just confirmation that Shane is out of WB, more to come. But then also noted that, quote, it's unknown whether his talent deal was terminated or if the plans for him the next 2 months were simply dropped. So apart from him, there was a report, I think, from PW Insider shortly before Mania that he was going to be at the show. Mm-hmm. I don't think we've heard anything about Shane since then. Kind of safe to
say that I don't think he's going to be back in WWE. I know, like, there was always rumors that, like, him and Shane didn't really get along, and I'm sure over the years they'd probably put that aside at some point because you probably have to. But given that Triple H is in charge of creative now, I'd be kind of shocked if Shane McMahon could show up now and try to pull that same shit. My favorite story from all this, of course, is when he was backstage at the Rumble waiting to come out, and his music hit. And no, it was his music hit, and he was trying to get Randy Orton to go out. He thought he wanted Randy Orton to go out before him.
Yeah.
And Randy looked at him and said, I'm not walking out there to your music, because somebody had already cued Shane McMahon's music. And he's like, I'm not fucking going out there.
Yeah.
And they were all kind of laughing him off. But yeah, apparently he walked in, pissed off a lot of people, and then he was fired by his own dad. I like the idea that Vince was quote unquote quietly using the term "let go." Like, you know, people are walking around, hey, what happened to Shane O'Mac? He was let go.
Yeah.
God damn it. I fired my own son. Don't tell anybody. Vince whispering in hushed tones.
Yeah,
Let
no.
him go.
What?
Yeah. Let him go. I fired him. God damn it. God damn it.
All right, fine.
Yeah. So, no, it's pretty funny. It's actually really comical. Shane O'Mac just walked in there, burned it down, and then fucked off.
Yeah. Yeah. He got fired.
That's kind of like, that's the most succinct way to put it.
Pretty much.
I don't fucking miss him. I really don't.
No.
You know, Shane O'Mac was pretty entertaining back during the Attitude Era.
Oh, yeah.
He left for a long time. I thought there were moments that he was still kind of entertaining, but like they gave him an Undertaker Mania match.
I know.
Like what? Really?
And it was long. It was like 30 minutes.
Yeah. And it's like he would still do crazy shit, but I'm like, come on, man. Like now it's just sort of sad seeing this older dude do this stuff. I don't need to see you jump off things.
Remember he took that bad bump at like Survivor Series and Orton went over to his kids to tell him that he was all right.
Yeah. I don't need to. That's too real.
Yeah.
I don't even like when Jeff Hardy does it, and he's made a whole career of it.
Yeah.
But I know I don't really miss Shane O'Mac. His Raw Underground was weird.
Yeah, it was. He'd stop fights on his whims.
Yeah. I mean,
Made
he
no
just
sense.
really came off like, you know, he was coked out. I'm just talking about what I saw on screen. Like it looked like his character was coked out guy who runs an underground fight club.
Yeah, that's totally what it seemed like.
Poorly.
Totally.
Who poorly runs.
Oh, poorly.
Underground.
Totally poorly,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I did like his relationship with Amos, though.
Yeah.
I thought that was nice.
And like the baked potato face line.
No,
at
there were
Mrs. Dad.
funny things.
There
When he was a
funny
bad
bits.
guy, the best in the world. Although, again, when he shows up at the Saudi Arabia show and he books himself to win best in the world, really, that's not a spot you can give to an actual wrestler?
Yeah, no, that should have been.
Like, give that to
someone else.
AJ or something?
Yeah, no.
I don't know.
I know.
Anyway.
I know.
Yeah.
We
so
got
I
a
think
few.
we-
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, the honorable. Yeah, let's talk about the honorable.
So we
mentions.
mentioned Wardlow earlier, and again, someone else whose years seemingly started out really good. He was in a really hot feud with MJF, and then it kind of ended with the fizzle at Double or Nothing. And he just hasn't really been able to get the momentum back, even as TNT champion.
Yeah.
You know, he was TNT champ, and then
He was on Rampage a lot.
He was on Rampage a lot. For some reason, they put him in a tag team with Samoa Joe just to launch a feud between the two of them, and then Joe got the title off him.
Yeah.
In a triple threat bout. It's just they had all the makings of the possibility of building a huge star.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And then they could never get back on track after Double or Nothing. And him saying this is Wardlow's world isn't helping matters.
No, he's sort of like his weaknesses, because of how new he is in general, were sort of wonderfully hidden during his time with MJF. On his own, those weaknesses come to the fore when he is reacting to a situation that, you know, he's up against it, and he was reacting to MJF, a big personality. Then that was a strength for him. But when he has to be that big personality, when he has to be the Goldberg, I guess, or whatever they want him to be, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. We all wanted to see this guy explode and become the new Batista. But the thing about Batista is that when he started, he was already old, and he already had that gravitas. He already had that, sense of, that sort of intangible, this guy has his priorities straight. This guy has that thing that you get when you're older. Batista already had that, and so you just believed him. Wardlow still comes off like he's inexperienced. He's young. He's getting by simply on the Powerbomb Symphony. He does other cool shit.
Yeah, he does.
He adds cool shit to his repertoire. You can tell this guy is building up. But honestly, I don't think it's on him. I think it's been on the creative that they've given him.
Yeah.
Because I think he's a good performer. It's just they're not emphasizing, when it comes to his character, they're not giving him what he needs to succeed to the level that I think he probably should be at this point.
Definitely. 1,000%.
Yeah.
We could talk Veer. Of course, it took him a while to debut.
Oh, he was coming forever.
He was coming forever, and then he finally came. And then he had a series of squash matches, and then once Triple H took over creative, he disappeared off TV for a while. And he's in NXT now doing something that could potentially be pretty neat with Songa.
Yeah.
I like what they're doing with the characters there. But just, the potential there was something pretty hyped up, and then it just kind of fizzled because there was nothing behind it more than just he's intense and he can beat people up. There just wasn't anything else to it.
I'm hopeful for his tag team with Indashare.
Because there's something there now.
They have real chemistry and they seem like real people. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then Vince McMahon. I guess we could have put him on this list. He's not a wrestler anymore, but I guess we could have put him on here. But nonetheless,
well, he's been a wrestler.
He has.
So
been, yeah.
I was like, Vince. I mean, synonymous with wrestling. Had a pretty dog shit. I mean, for one thing, he had to fire his own son, and then he had to fire himself. Now he thinks that was bad advice. I think it was probably good advice.
Yeah, it seemed like pretty sound advice. We were told Vince to step down. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Sound advice.
So yeah, bad year for Vince. Anyways, we're heading into the new year, 2023. Let us know in the comments below what you'd like to see next from Count Out.
Yes.
I know
Let
we're
us
going
know
to be
who
doing.
we missed on. Who do you think did not have a great year?
Who had a shit year? Did we miss anybody who had a shit year? Let us know in the comments below. What kind of countouts would you like to see in the new year?
Yes.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate it. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.